Jennifer Bleiker here, and I'd like to welcome you back to our consent building blog. Today I'm going to be following up on a couple of points from our consent building clinic number 70, during which we discussed the topic of what do you do when the public is convinced that it's too late to give input, when in fact it's not, and we also discussed how that can hurt your credibility. A serious underlying accusation that comes out of this and some previous brown bags or consent building clinics, in particular numbers 5, 30, 51, and 66, and I'll put some links on here when I can, is the accusation that you're not listening. You don't care. And it's a very serious accusation. We need to bring your attention to it because chances are you, like most other public sector professionals, underestimate the seriousness of it. And if you underestimate the seriousness of this accusation, you're likely also underappreciating the damage it does to your relationship with your various publics. Chances are, if you underestimate the damage, you're also undercorrecting this misperception. We hope it's a misperception. If it's a reality, please get on board. Do what you can. You do need to listen to your public. You do need to care. And no, that doesn't mean you do whatever they ask you to do. Of course not. The public's going to ask you to do diametrically opposing things that are counter to your mission, counter to procedures and policies, or even science. You can't do that, but what you can do is get to them to conclude that you are listening and you do care. Now, let's take a look at Facebook. We have an example here from a small city, unnamed, where a resident writes, "I'm trying to remodel a few things in my house, but the people who handle the permits at City Hall are uncooperative, arrogant, and seem to be on a power trip. I wonder if they realize that they're civil servants paid by taxes, which means they work for me. My remodel is on hold, and the city staff couldn't care less. I called to see if they approved my drawing so I can get my permit. The person in the permits office that I spoke with was so snarky and so unpleasant to me, I hung up. How disappointing. If I hadn't started this remodel, I'd move to another part of this metro area. Thanks for nothing, city." Wow, this person's really frustrated. And we ask you to look at it from your personal life. If you've ever said these words or heard these words in your personal life, it's pretty devastating. Even if it's a child saying it to a parent, "You're not listening to me. You don't care." Wow. Chances are, if you've said it or you've heard it, it's come at a point where that person, maybe you, is at wit's end. You've hit a wall. You felt like you have done everything you can to get this person's attention to say, "It's not working. Why aren't you listening to me? Why don't you care?" You're not listening because you don't care. That's even worse. Talk about salt in the wound. And so we need you to take a step back and realize that's what's happening in your relationship with the public. When you hear this accusation hurled at you, and again, we hope it's a misperception, you've got to take it seriously. You've got to stop what you're doing and get the public to conclude and prove it, that you are listening, you do care. No, you might not be able to do what they're asking, but it's not because you don't care, and it's not because you aren't listening. Let's look at that Facebook post again. You can almost hear the person throwing his arms up in frustration. "I'm trying to remodel a few things in my house, but the people who handle the permits at City Hall are uncooperative, they're arrogant, and seem to be on a power trip." He goes on, "My remodel is on hold, and the city staff couldn't care less." Wow, they don't care. That's his conclusion. "I called to see if they approved my drawing so I could get my permit. The person in the permits office that I spoke with was so snarky and so unpleasant to me, I hung up. How disappointing." He would actually move. He says, "If I hadn't started this remodel, I would move to another part of the metro area." Wow, that's serious. In what other ways is this city giving the message or fulfilling the misperception that they don't care, that they're not listening? Look, you need the public to understand that what you're doing is out of responsibility to your mission, that you'll do whatever you can to listen and ameliorate the negative impacts, even if it's a long permit process. You've got to communicate with the public. what you're working on, why you're working on it, why things are as they are, why they're feeling the pain and the frustration they are. Same with your child or your spouse. Don't take those kind of accusations lightly. We hope you don't in your personal life. Please don't do it in your professional life. So we had to bring your attention back to this, because if you're not receptive and responsive to these misperceptions, and again, we hope they're misperceptions and not a reality, you're actually fulfilling the accusation itself. If you're not responding to the accusation, well, gee, you pretty much prove you're not listening. And perhaps you're not listening because you don't care. So take the time to respond to these kind of comments. Now, we don't know if this unnamed city, responded to this person offline. There's no evidence that they did online. Generally, a resident feels compelled to go back online and say, look, I was really frustrated. I think it allows the permitting process, but they did contact me. Clearly, they do care. They apologized. Generally, that's what people do, not always. So there's no evidence that this city did anything of the sort. And we encourage you, don't make this mistake. Take this accusation seriously for what it is. Realize it's doing very damaging things to your relationship with your various publics. And if anything, overcorrect. Don't undercorrect it. So that's what we had to share with you today. We appreciate you joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.